Mitchell, I'm an alcoholic.
I see.
Seems like a rough place to work with all those insults going on. It's good to be here. I've been coming here for a long time. I think it doesn't make any difference, but I think I was the third speaker when this group started, those years ago. Did I say my name? I can never remember that. Did I? I can never remember that. I just went through this Monday night. I think it's nerves. No, I don't think I'm losing my element yet. Anyway, it's good to be here. I've got a sobriety date. It's May 26, 1975. And I'm a member of the principals group of Alcoholics Anonymous in Raleigh. We're one group that meets 2 times a week. We're on New Hope Road. On Tuesday night, we have a closed meeting. First Tuesday night of the month, we study the book Alcoholics Anonymous. The second and third, we take topics from AA literature, common to all alcoholics in their quest for sobriety. And on the fourth, we do a tradition in conjunction with the month. And when there's fifth, I think there's 4 months that have 5 Tuesdays. If there's a fifth, we study Alcoholics Anonymous history, believing that our collective history is as important to us as an organization as my history is to me. I listen to an archivist. If those of us that are interested in the bigger AA world know that the only jobs that don't change at the General Service Office in New York is the General Service Office manager. She stays in that job all the time. She doesn't rotate from one chair to another. And the other one is the archivist, for obvious reasons, to put continuity to the history. And I heard an archivist say one time that every civilization that had disappeared since the beginning of the world that they could figure out had forgot their roots. And I don't want to, it's one of the reasons we talk about our drinking in Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't want to live, I'm not a prisoner. I don't live in fear of the first drink, but I ain't forgot it either. I had a sponsor one time. Tom's been my sponsor for many years, but I had a sponsor one time. He's dead now, but he said, this ain't good, and it ain't all good, and it ain't all bad, but there's always going to be a part of you that's homeless and hemorrhaging blood. And the good part of that is I got enough demons chasing me to keep me going forever. One of the things that's kept me sober in Alcoholics Anonymous and kept me current with today is I've never thought for one time I've had it made. If you don't have to watch very long in Alcoholics Anonymous to what happens to people who think they have it made. It took me a while to catch on that the illness of alcoholism is in full bloom whether someone is drinking or not. And the first time I ever heard anybody say that the majority of alcoholics who commit suicide do that sober, that made good sense to me. Made perfect sense to me. I think you could argue that we were killing ourselves with our drinking, but the majority of alcoholics who kill themselves by their own hand do that sober. No hope for drinking, no hope for sobriety. That's a tough place to be. And then on Thursday night, we have an open speaker meeting. They're doing that exactly tonight. It's only at 8 o'clock. And if there's a fifth Thursday, we have a workshop from 8 to 9:30. So if you're in Raleigh, come and visit us. We're a good 3 legacy group, and we're part of the bigger world of Alcoholics Anonymous. What I'm going to do tonight is try to share in a general way what I used to be like, what happened, and what I'm like now. And if you ever wonder about the wisdom of what our founders laid out for us and how God guided all that and the grace of God and just how everything about Alcoholics Anonymous got a lot more true after they wrote it down. But if you really want to know what a newcomer needs to know, is what we used to be like, what happened, and what we're like now. Now, they probably ain't going to believe that. I didn't. I probably believed a little bit of it. But somehow I thought that there was something in a big way that separated me from other alcoholics. I've been in North Carolina since 1989, but where I'm from in Nebraska, I came from Nebraska in 1989. Where I'm from in Nebraska, people are Catholics about like in North Carolina, like they're Baptists. And people are Catholics everywhere. Sometimes there's a Catholic church on every block. And one night at the boxing matches, there was, every time one of the fighters stood up, the bell rang, he stood up and he crossed himself like that. You've seen a batter step into the box or somebody go to the free throw line and they'd cross himself. Well, there was a Catholic priest down at ringside watching the fight, and on the other side of the ring there was a drunk. And the drunk was intrigued by that guy that kept that deal, and so he wandered over to the priest and he said, Father, that guy that keeps doing that's one of your boys, ain't it? And the priest said, well, he does appear to be a Roman Catholic. And he said, well, what's he doing? He said, well, he's crossing himself in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And the drunk said, will that help him? And the priest leaned back over and said, it'll help him if he can fight. And that's a good bit the way Alcoholics Anonymous is. It'll help us if we do what we're supposed to do. And as Tom is fond of saying over the years, it works as long as you do the stuff that brings about the change. And when you quit doing that, it quits working. So I don't ever want to be in that category. If I had to describe what I thought alcoholism was, what I would say it means to me is I can't live with drinking and I can't live without drinking. And if I had to describe what Alcoholics Anonymous was, the thing that Matthew read tonight, the preamble, is pretty succinct. It goes right to the chase. It explains what Alcoholics Anonymous is and what it isn't. But what I would say in one sentence, I would say that Alcoholics Anonymous, if practiced as a way of life, and all the stuff is put in place at one time, it's more powerful than the illness of alcoholism. That's what Alcoholics Anonymous is. I'm very grateful after I saw more of the AA world in my sobriety that I fell under the care of the people that I did where I sobered up. Because what I was told is that if you practice these principles to the best of your ability, it's impossible to drink. You can't do both. Could I get drunk? Of course I could get drunk. Any alcoholic could get drunk, no matter how long they've been sober. The longest one I know of from inside the tent, I know of a guy that was sober 44 years and took a drink of table wine at Thanksgiving, and he expired a couple, 3 weeks later. So, I mean, it could happen, but I'm not going to just walk off and get drunk. I've recovered from the illness of alcoholism. I've got some stuff in place that makes drinking impossible if I stay in the power right now and I do the things that are available for me to do. They asked Dr. Bob one time, this is actually written down in our history, they asked Dr. Bob, one of our founders, do you think you'll ever drink again? And this is what he said. He said, no, I don't think I'll ever drink again as long as I live one day at a time unless I quit doing what I've been doing. If you could do all the stuff that Alcoholics Anonymous makes available to us and still drink alcohol, then Alcoholics Anonymous would not be a miracle, it'd be a crapshoot. Because one thing AA can't do, best I can tell since I've been here, is it can't shield you from life. I mean, that's going to show up. And I don't know many alcoholics, including me, that didn't get more problems after they quit drinking. Now, I had some big problems when I was drinking, but you could usually break them up by getting out of there. I'm not exactly Methuselah's age. We got some people in here are. But I was actually in a flop in late 1974 and early 1975. Well, just I guess the best way of explaining this, it was not a very nice place, and everybody in there didn't have their own bathroom. And the rent was $7 a week. So you can imagine what kind of a place it was. And when I got sober, I met a guy in AA, and they told him I'd been in that flop. He couldn't wait to talk to me. He'd been sober quite a while. And he said, you were in there? I said, yeah, I was in there. And first thing he wanted to know, he said, what was the rent when you were there? And I said, it was $7 a week. He said, well, it was $5 a week when I was in there. And he pointed out it didn't make much difference. Neither one of us could make the rent. So, you know, but the thing about Alcoholics Anonymous, I guess, that most intriguing to me is that AA meetings, if you're new here tonight and you don't know anything about Alcoholics Anonymous, like I didn't know when I came here, or anybody, if you know anything about Alcoholics Anonymous, it's not going to be anything that can change your life if you know before you come here, because it'd be an intellectual knowledge of Alcoholics Anonymous. And you can have all the knowledge in the world and have a front row seat and die drunk. I mean, this is a thing about action. You have to do certain things. And if there's a magic word in Alcoholics Anonymous, that word would be surrender. But what I'm here to tell you tonight, what I started to tell you a second ago, is that AA meetings are not AA as such. All meetings are is one thing we do in AA. AA itself is a way of life, and it's made up of many series of parts of a great whole. At the pinnacle of that whole is the 12 steps. Two things: no 12 steps, no Alcoholics Anonymous; no identification, no Alcoholics Anonymous. And again, if you're new and you think our singleness of purpose about, insisting on focusing on alcohol and alcoholism, if you think that's rigid or narrow, if you don't believe in singleness of purpose, then you have to believe we're just a group of sick people that get together periodically. Because that's what we come together around. We come together around the illness of alcoholism. If you leave that out, a group of AA members look like any other group of people. You got everything in the world in there. You got heterosexuals in here, you got homosexuals, you got people that are halfway in between, don't know what they are. You got people with incredible amounts of money, people with no money, people with a lot of education, people that can't write their own name, and every kind of thing in the world. The thing we come together around is the illness of alcoholism. So it's very important that we know what it is that we're doing and clear about that. One of the things, my wife came with me and keep me on task. I thought I had on black pants, and she said they're green. They look black to me, or at least close. And I said, well, this, you think all this will fit? And she said, well, you're not known for wearing very good clothes. I said, that's a little rough. I'm just trying to get by. You know, from where I started, I'm doing pretty good. But we were listening to a guy talk about some history on the way down here, and it is true. This is in, I think, Bill sees it, and it's in some other places in Alcoholics Anonymous literature. But he made this rather profound statement. He said, lest we forget, it's good to remember that Alcoholics Anonymous is made up of colossal failures, transformed by the grace of a loving God. So what gives me the right to be here tonight is that I failed at everything I tried to do. I drank myself almost to death. I drank myself into homelessness. When I went to the bathroom, blood came out. When I vomited, blood came out. Had all kinds of other problems. I came into Alcoholics Anonymous. I surrendered at age 25, almost 26. Some people got a hold of me and began to show me how to live, what actions to take, what principles to practice for one day at a time. And slowly, I began to live like I was supposed to live all along. That's what gives me the right to be here tonight. In Alcoholics Anonymous, again, if you're new, there's no such thing as the good help and the bad. We're a mutual aid society. We do together what we can't do alone. And we're connected by a bond that you actually get much closer here than blood. In fact, I don't want to sound too bad, but I got some blood. If I never saw them again, it'd be plenty time for me. My kids, this is terrible, isn't it? Hey, just tell the truth, I guess. In 1997, my daughters wanted me to take them. They said, let's go to there was a family reunion in Colorado Springs. And I wouldn't have went, but they wanted to go, so we went. We went to Colorado Springs, and it was a long family reunion, we'll just leave it at that. But on Sunday afternoon, the last day, they had a vote on when to have the next one. And the options were 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. Well, I didn't vote. And somebody asked me why I didn't vote. I said, it don't matter when they are, I won't be back. I guarantee you that. Whether it's tomorrow or 50 years, I won't be back. So, anyway, for what all that's worth. I grew up in alcoholism. I came from a long line of alcoholics. You know that deal in AA, you hear it all the time. You hear people say it in closed meetings, discussion meetings all the time. You hear people say, they're explaining somebody in their family, usually a child or a parent or a spouse or something, brother, sister. They'll say, they're talking about their drinking, and then they'll stop and they'll say, but I can't say they're an alcoholic because they never said they were. You heard that all the time, right? They obviously think they're an alcoholic, but they stop short. They say, I can't say they're an alcoholic because they never said they were. Well, I'm going to take a chance on those people in my family. There weren't many of those people said they were alcoholics. My dad, they wore out one car taking him around the hospitals, trying to get him to quit drinking. And he was as bad a case of alcoholism as I've ever seen. And he wasn't any closer at the end of his life believing he was an alcoholic than he was the first time somebody told him. In fact, the first summer I was sober, he told me, and serious too, it was not a pleasant conversation. He said, the problem with you, he said, you went from one extreme to the other. Well, I didn't know enough, but if I'd have been thinking, I'd have said, Dad, I think that's the idea here. You're drunk and now you're sober. I mean, that's the whole drill, I think. I didn't know enough, but I grew up in alcoholism, and I come from a good, and remember now, I'll say this and then I'll come back and try to straighten it out a little bit. I come from good, honest, decent, hardworking, middle-class people. Now, with that said, there's a part of alcoholism that you can't reach with that type of honesty. What they were honest about was hard work and basic right and wrong stuff. Now, they'd slip through there and all that. But it was the kind of honesty that if they gave you too much money for, if you went in a store and they gave you too much change, they'd give it back. I had my grandfather on the farm. I'm not from the farm, I'm from farm country. But my grandpa on the farm, literally, this is not an embellishment, literally would not go fishing on his own property without a fishing license. But Grandpa kept about that much whiskey in a bottle for the next morning to get his right mind back. And it was, they believed in hard work, and they loved to talk about each other's drinking. It's a strange place. And you could make a lot of mistakes if you worked hard. Well, that left me out right there. I don't know whatever happened to me. I was in Nebraska a long time. I was actually in Nebraska when I was a child until I went off in the military. But even to this day, I don't know any crops in the field except corn. I know what they look like on your plate, but I was out there riding around on those country roads for years drinking beer. I have no idea what all those crops were. I mean, just somehow all that stuff escaped me. But I was fast-tracked in school because I could read really, really good. I think I just came into the world with some stuff. I don't ever remember learning how to read. I just knew how to read. I knew how to read really good. I knew how to read out loud in front of other people. I knew what words meant. So I was fast-tracked. And what happened, it was in the 4th grade, they introduced a thing called long division. I don't know if you think back when you were in school and when they introduced that, but they might as well have been talking to me in Swahili. I mean, I had no more idea what they were talking about with that long division, and of course they didn't believe me. And I can remember to this day, my teacher and my principal, and there was another lady, she was probably a counselor of some kind, took me to the office and talked with me. And what they wanted to know is why I wouldn't do that long division. I was a little bit of a behavior problem already, being raised in alcoholism, being confused. And, I've always heard that too, that little kids have to learn how to be taught how to hate. They don't come by it naturally. That's just not my experience. I don't think anybody ever taught me how to hate. I think I knew how to do it on my own. I think I came into the world afraid and mad. And those have always been my 2 biggest problems. And what I've learned to do is live one day at a time. If I live in the past, I'm resentful or angry. If I live in the future, I'm afraid. If I live in the power right now, I'm safe. So one day at a time, I mean, we didn't, if you wonder about people that helped us get Alcoholics Anonymous going, one day at a time came right out of the Bible. That's where we got that. About not drinking for one day at a time, that came straight from the Bible. We got most of our stuff from men and women of medicine and religion. But anyway, they took me down to the office and they wanted to know why I wouldn't do that long division. Well, I knew I couldn't do it, but it was very confusing. If I'm so smart and I've been fast-tracked in school, why I can't do that? And I think it was the principal. She probably didn't mean this. These were all good. I don't know about the one lady that was the counselor, but my teacher and the principal gave their whole life to that elementary school in that little town of about 25,000 people. So they were exemplary women. But I think it was the principal that said, we want to know why you won't do this. We know you can do it. You're smarter than I am. And that was really confusing to me because I knew I couldn't do it. And then a little bit later, things started to become even a little bit more confusing. And it took me a long time to figure all this stuff out. But I didn't learn how to tie my shoes very easy. My dad had to work with me. And like I can't read a map. I've actually stopped along the highway to pee. I've got back in the car and went the wrong way. I mean, I get lost really easy. I mean, just because I can get somewhere doesn't necessarily mean I can get back. So all of that stuff, like a map and like, I can't change a tire on a car. If I get a flat tire, I'm just down until you get there. And I was so grateful when they came along with those disposable razors. I've had a couple razors in my life that I ended up throwing away. Couldn't figure out how to get the blade in. But all that was just real confusing to me. Actually, I'll tell you where I got that straightened out the best. I don't want to brag about this, but I'm actually a ping pong champion, Veterans Administration Psychiatric Ward, Lincoln, Nebraska. Ping pong champion. I lost one game of ping pong the entire time I was in there. At that point, I had my headband sent in. I had long hair in those days, and I remained undefeated after that. But there was a head doctor in there. I'd already pretty well figured it out by this time, but he said, look, you're as smart as anybody else.